Okay, for the second part of our Starry Night project, we are going to be working on the middle ground, which is the area of the hillside with the houses, and the foreground, which is the cypress tree. So in the middle of the Starry Night landscape, we see the hillside with the houses. We're going to be very abstract with this. So we're just going to be making swirls of purples, blues, and greens, and then adding little dashes of yellow to represent like the lights we see. For the cypress tree, we're going to be doing some reds and oranges with some black on top. Now remember the trick I showed you in the previous video. If you don't have paint at home, use some markers. You're not going to be able to get all of the effects, especially the one that I'm going to show you with the cypress tree, but you could still just kind of color with those and blend a little bit with a watered brush if you'd like, or just color it. It just depends on what you have available to you. So what you want to start with is I just grabbed another piece of my watercolor paper, the same size, and I was able to get the two pieces that I needed, the two sizes. So the one size is just about like almost like a third of the paper. And then the other size is about a fourth of the paper. It should reach from top to bottom, and this paper should reach from side to side. So you will want to go ahead and draw just a waving, curving line to represent that hillside for the middle ground of our Starry Night, and then draw out that cypress shape. So you can see these directions on the handout that I have here. So once you have them drawn out, I've asked for you to cut them out. It will make it easier so you don't have to wait for them to dry again and all that. So we're just gonna go ahead and work on cutting those out. So now I'm going to work on the middle ground of my Starry Night picture. So I'm going to go ahead and begin to paint, and I'm just going to start with one color at a time. Now I am using tempera paint. Tempera paint is, just know the difference between tempera and acrylic. So tempera paint, think of the word temporary. It may or may not wash out of your clothes. It can get re-wet, so if you went over a painting that used tempera paint, you would wake those colors back up if you used a watery brush on them later. Whereas acrylic paint, something like this, acrylic is permanent. If you get that on your clothes, you're most likely not going to get that out. If it gets on the carpet or on fabric, it's not going to wash out. So just know the difference there. It depends on what you have at home. Again, I'm using some of my kids' art supplies. I don't have black tempera paint for them, I realize, so now I'm gonna have to use acrylic. So just do what you can. Remember our marker trick if you need to. So I'm going to start by painting with some swirls of green. So this is kind of fun because it doesn't really matter how you paint it. It's just adding this color in there, just getting some color in the background. So once I want to switch to another color, I'm going to clean out my brush as best I can. And I always have my kiddos wipe their brush. I have a friend helping me now. Somebody woke up from their nap, huh? So now what we're going to do is dip in the blue. You help me. And we're going to add some swirls right on top. And it's okay if it mixes in with that green. You'll get a really nice, pretty colors of like a blue-green. And we'll get a little bit more blue. So the goal is to just fill up this white paper. And then once you have mostly filled, then you're going to add a little bit of purple. And again, you can either clean off your brush or you don't have to. And I just love the mixture of these three colors together. So making sure that you've painted the whole paper, and then you definitely want to make sure that you've cleaned and rinsed your brush, dried your brush in between this color and the next color, because we're going to be adding, or you can even switch your brush completely. We're going to be adding some yellow dots for the lights. So I'm just going to switch my brush and just use the very tip of my brush, not letting it mix in like the other three colors, and just adding little yellow dots right on top, just to be like the little lights. All right, so, and the next step you'll see is right here where it shows you are going to do the next step for the cypress tree. Now I have a little helper with me. He's going to paint his paper over here and I'm going to paint mine. We'll see how well this works. So you're going to paint with the red and the orange. So I'm just adding a little bit of red in places, and then I'm going to dip in orange. Okay, you do your dots. And I'm not worried about changing my brush, like rinsing my brush in between the two colors since they're so similar.
Give me brush off.
Here, you gotta dip it in the water cup. Dip it in the water cup. So you wanna make sure you paint this entire cypress tree shape with the reds and the oranges, and then you're going to let that dry for about 30 seconds. So you're gonna count to 30 and let now that I've counted to 30 and this is just a little wee bit extra dry, I'm going to use my black and completely cover all of my red and orange. You don't want it to mix with the red and orange, so you wanna work quickly and just lay this on top nice and thick. You'll want to have your fork nearby. I'm just going to be using a plastic fork, and I'm going to take that fork and run it through and make some really fun wavy lines so you could see that red and orange underneath on that cypress tree.
Mommy,
so once you have that, what baby?
I made a dinosaur.
You made a dinosaur.
It's so cute.
So once you're done, you can add your middle ground on top. Oh, shh, listen, look, we're making Starry Night. You can add your middle ground on top of your background, and then you can add your cypress tree right on top. So you'll want to have these things dry, obviously, and then you can glue them down, but I just want to give you an idea of what that looks like all finished. Can't wait to see your Starry Nights. Do the best you can with what you have at home.